Hello. Welcome to the Jesus People podcast with me, Michael Grenholm from Sweden. And with me in the studio, I have.
Mark Gent.
And.
Sangeeta Gent.
Wow, what an amazing bunch of people. With such a similar surname, it is easy to suppose that you are married.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's right, yeah, exactly. So, Mark and Sangeeta, I'm so glad that you're joining this podcast of ours. I'm a bit sad that Sarah isn't with us. She's usually in the podcast, but she's doing something else in an entire different country. So, the reason I've asked you to participate is because I think that you both have very fascinating life stories and you have incredible testimonies about what God has been doing in your life. And you also have some good experience of community, and both me and Sarah are very interested in how to do Christian community with a common purse. So yeah, that's why I've asked you to participate. I'm very glad that you are joining this podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, I met you for the first time 7 years ago. Do you remember our first encounter?
No.
Really? You don't?
Actually, I don't actually remember because we had so many faces in and out of the community around that time. So sadly, I didn't actually remember you specifically, but when you did contact me on Facebook, I started to piece together who you were and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you. I came here and it was 2010, so I was just 19 years old. And I had just discovered the Jesus Army. It was all new to me, and the community aspect of it all was very fascinating, very adventurous. It was the first time that I was in another country by myself. And you really took care of me. I got to sleep in your room, I remember. And you asked me if I had been baptized in the Holy Spirit. And I said that I hadn't. And so you sort of, encouraged me to seek prayer for that. And indeed, I was baptized in the Holy Spirit during that weekend. So I remember you, even if I apparently wasn't that memorable for you. But Mark, could you briefly tell us about how you became a Christian? Because you have not always followed Jesus, isn't it, sir?
Yeah, that's true. I guess when I was younger, I came from a broken family. My father and my mother, they'd broken up, and my father went to live with my stepmother, and I lived with my father and my stepmother for a while, and because of the arguments and the lifestyle that they lived, I ended up leaving them to go to my aunt's because my aunt was a very kind, caring woman, and she always used to give me sweets whenever I went there. She always used to give me, on a Sunday, she would give me nice pudding like cake and custard, and she really won my heart when I was young. And I really felt I wanted to be with my aunt because of my father and my mother's instability. They were drinking, they were arguing all the time. So I lived with my aunt, and later on we discovered that my aunt had cancer in her breast. And because I was quite a rebellious teenager in my when I was younger, in my teenage years, I used to bunk class. I used to get involved in fights and get locked up by the police and stuff. And what happened was my aunt really didn't have the ability to be able to look after me. So the only option was for me to go to a foster home. And I went to this foster home, and it was a Catholic foster home. And I didn't know anything about religion, anything about Jesus. I went to this Catholic foster home, and I was um, I was part of a family of five actually. Um, the the main head of the house was a vicar called Richard Hill, and we lived in this vicarage in a place called Rossley, which is not far away from Carlisle.
Mm.
And there was Richard, his wife Mary, um, their two sons Sarah and Adam, and an elder son Jonathan, and myself. Actually, six of us were there. And they used to say thank you, and thank you for the food. They used to pray and everything, and I didn't. I just I just got involved, and I didn't really. My heart wasn't in it. I just got involved in what they were doing in terms of them saying grace, and I used to go to Sunday school and go to church every Sunday. But realistically, my heart was not really there.
So
But
what did you think about God at that time?
well, I felt that God didn't exist. I mean, me and my friends, we used to go downtown, and we would go into churches, and we had a lot of Catholic churches around our area. We'd go into churches, and my friends would go and steal money from the prayer box and stuff, and get bus fare home, or buy drink, alcohol, or whatever. And I just didn't really my view of God wasn't there. It was non-existent. I didn't believe that God was actually real. And especially in this foster home, I was in this foster home, and there was these people there who were devoted to God, and even though they were very committed in what they believed in, and their hearts were totally, this is the way that we live, this is the way that our lifestyle is, I still didn't believe that God was real. But I believe that that was the start of my journey at that foster home.
And what was the transformative point in your journey? When was it that you actually received Christ?
Okay, well, I would say that I think it was maybe about 14 years ago. I was quite broken. Um, Obviously, I told you that I was brought up in this foster home at a young age. So from the age of uh, maybe 10, 11 or something, from then on there was my life was a very rocky road, really, in terms of there was a lot of potholes in the road. I was going through trials and tests, and it was when I came to Northampton. I used to live with a Muslim, and this Muslim was a drug dealer, and um, I I used to get I used to smoke weed and buy drugs off him for my friends and stuff who I used to live with. And what happened was I owed him quite a lot of money, and we got into this fight about this money, and I ended up wrestling with this Muslim, and he threw me over his shoulder, and my ankle hit the corner of the table, and my ankle just swelled out, and I couldn't really put any weight on my left leg, and I fled from Nottingham to Northampton, and I ended up I was on the streets for a while. Me and this couple called Linda and Mark, and they were quite they were alcoholics, they were drug users, and so we fled from Nottingham, and I ended up in Northampton, and I ended up meeting the Jesus Army by it. I think it wasn't really a planned thing. There was a festival going on at the time called a balloon festival, where they used to let off hot air balloons, and there was a barbecue that was being hosted in the back garden of this particular community house, and I walked into the back of this garden from the field, and I ended up meeting a load of people there, and some of them that they just felt these are just ordinary people, but some people who I came into contact with, I knew that these people are special. They had something that I needed, and I felt inside that my life was purposeless, and that I needed purpose in my life. I needed um, something that was going to give me direction and keep me on the right path. And I couldn't put my finger on what that was, and it was later on, maybe a few days later, as as I woke up in a hospital bed due to an overdose of prescribed sleeping tablets and alcohol. And as soon as I opened my eyes, the nurses started pulling out all of these tubes from my arms and said, "Okay, he's awake. We can get him out the door now." And I didn't know any of my bearings in Northampton, and I was walking down this road, and I didn't know where I was going to go, but I just kept walking and turning corners, and I felt I need to go down this particular road. And as I was walking down, I just happened to look on my right, and there was a house, and the window of this house had a big sticker on it called Jesus Army. And I knew that this was the front of the house of where I had the barbecue. So I knocked on the door, and one of the leaders, Steve, his name is, he said, "Can you come in? And we want to look after you. We're not going to pressurize you into any of what we believe. We just want you to come and be part of us and just relax, just chill out." And I found God very gradually. But um, one of the main encounters what I had, and I just knew that God was real, was when I got prayer for my ankle that was swollen up because of the Muslim had actually thrown me over his shoulder, and it hit the corner of the table. And I really, as I was receiving prayer, as Steve, who is a leader of the house, he laid his hands on me and started to pray for healing. I felt this warm. It was like I was under a shower. This warm, like trickling over my head and going right down my back and down my legs. And I really sensed that. I really sensed that there was something going on what I couldn't really identify, couldn't put my finger on. And when I opened one eye to look, there was nobody around and no one was tipping anything over me. And I thought, this is very strange, what is going on? And I felt this heat around my ankle, and it was like a very dull heat, but not burning or intense or anything like that, but just a very soothing heat, like a hot water bottle was around my foot or something. And the next day I woke up, I got out of bed and started walking, and then I realized I'm actually walking with my whole weight on this leg, on this foot that had been damaged. And I just knew these people, they prayed for me for healing. They prayed in the name of Jesus, and there I was walking on this ankle that had been swollen previously, but now the swelling had shrunk immensely, and I just, in my heart, I just felt, this is it. Then a day later, we went to the marquee, which is
What's the marquee?
A marquee is a big meeting what we have, a big festival weekend what we have, and there's usually about 1,000 people or so that come to our marquees, and the marquee is under a big tent. There's a big, huge, enormous tent, a bit like what you'd see in a circus.
Yeah.
A circus kind of tent, but it's absolutely huge, and our whole church can fit in this, underneath this tent. And this was my first real powerful experience of church. I'd never ever experienced church in a way that I had experienced when I went to this marquee. And I walked into this marquee, and even though there was thousands of people there, just I didn't feel uncomfortable in myself. I just I felt quite confident. I felt, in a sense, I just felt I belong. You know, I belong to these people. These people are my family, kind of. And the preacher who was preaching, his name is Noel Stanton, who was the founder of this church, and the movement of Jesus Army is now in glory with the Lord. And he was preaching, and everything that he spoke about, it was like he was speaking directly into my heart. And it's like I felt that he was communicating through God the particular needs what I needed to find healing for, like rejection and things, and because I was brought up in a foster home and stuff, and yeah, a lot of a sense of family. He was talking a lot about all these things that were very personal, and they reached into my heart. And there was other things that he spoke about that I felt only God can know about these things. And a few times I had to get up off my seat and leave the tent because I was just weeping. I was I was quite emotional. I was just not aware of what was going on. But yeah, I found God then, and maybe a day later I was baptized in the river.
Praise the Lord. Now I want to turn to you, Sangeeta. You had a very different upbringing.
Yeah.
And a very different background. So can you tell us about where you come from and how you grew up?
Okay. I'm an Indian. Yeah. I was born in a city called Chennai. My family, they, we're all Christians. I mean, my grandfather, his father, my parents are all Christians, and my grandfather has his own church. So I was brought up, and my spiritual family and my natural family is my spiritual family. So I had a very good upbringing. My parents, so no, right from my childhood, my parents have taught me only about God, His ways, and this is what this is. They haven't forced me into anything, but in a very nice way. I've watched them and I've learned everything in terms of loving God, faith, and everything. Yeah.
So you grew up a Christian?
That's right.
But was there still a point in your life when you felt that you made a decision yourself to follow Christ?
Yeah. Well, you know how we go to Sunday school and everything, and you learn about who Jesus is, and your parents tell everything. But when I was 11, You know, my mum is the worship leader. She was worshiping. Uh, I was also, you know, worshiping the Lord, and all of a sudden, all I could see, I started crying, weeping, and all I could see is Jesus, what He did for me on the cross.
Wow.
And that was when I really felt wow for myself. Not because my parents said, or not because the pastor was
Mm.
preaching about God, but because I felt this love, what He did for me, what He was on the cross. You know, I can still feel it when I was closing my eyes, singing this song, and tears rolling, you know, just coming down, and I couldn't stop crying. But
Mm.
it was not, it was not a painful thing, but it was this joy within
Mm.
of what He did for me, and I'm eternally grateful
Yeah.
to Him. You know, that was that was the point. I really felt wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you witness or experience any miracles?
Um, miracles in our church, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lady with cancer getting healed.
Oh, tell us about that.
Okay, I've known this sister for years, and she had breast cancer.
Mm.
And during the meeting, this pastor, I mean, my family knew about it, but none of the other believers did.
Mm.
This pastor, while praying, he said, "Well, there are two women here who have cancer, and God is definitely going to hear your prayer, and you are going to get healed." And then we knew who they were, and they got healed. I mean, that
Both of
was,
them, even.
yes, both of them. And yeah, her name is Mary. She's still around. She's in her
Yeah.
60s, I think. Yeah, that was amazing. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
to
I can
see them
tell.
come out of it, and she's healthy now. She's fine.
Hmm. Praise
So
the
yeah,
Lord. And when was that?
that was say at least 7 years ago.
Ah,
Yeah, still
amazing.
they're still fine. They're okay. So
Yeah.
that's amazing what God has done.
Yeah. And you said that your natural family is your spiritual family as well. And you also had Christian community in the family itself, isn't it so?
Yes, that is how we normally live. Indians, we live in a joint family. So my family consists of nearly 20 to 24 people,
Mm.
members. So it is like a community. We live where it's a big house. We live there. My grandfather is the head,
Mm.
you know, and then we cook there together. We sit and eat, you know, on the floor, everyone together. So yeah, it was sort of like that, and we are accountable. You know, whatever you what to say in terms of money and everything,
Mm.
we have a habit of getting it from our elders, and they ask us, "What is it for?" So it's not that like you use your own money, you can take it anywhere,
Mm.
but being, "Oh, this is what I'm gonna do. This is where I'm going. This is what I want to buy." So things like that, yeah.
Yeah. And then you went to the UK.
Mhm.
Why was that?
Right. Well, after I finished my schooling, I did my undergraduation, but I always wanted to do my MBA,
What's that?
Masters in Business Administration.
Ah.
Okay, but I wanted to do it in the UK. So that was, but I had no doubt, but I had so many difficulties in terms of finances and everything, you know. But finally, God opened up ways. I had to wait for, I had to wait for 2 years though for
Mm-hmm.
all these things, and then yeah, God opened up a way. A friend of the family, he came up with this big check, which was like, which covered my living expenditure as well as a tuition fee.
Mm.
So yeah, I came to the UK in 2010. Went to Coventry Uni to do my MBA in business
Mm.
administration. Yeah.
And then you were looking for a church?
Um. Not. Yeah. I mean, when I was in Coventry, I went to a Tamil church there. But then, I moved to Tunbridge Wells, where my cousin lives. And I was there for a month, and all of a sudden, I had this feeling within, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to move to Northampton. Or well, I've never been to Northampton or anything.
Mm.
Like, so, but my cousin was like, "Why do you want to move to Northampton? You can go to Coventry. You know people there, but why Northampton?" But I had this very strong feeling within me, like, no, I'm not going to go back to Coventry. Not back to Coventry because I never liked it there. But I wanted to start fresh. I'm moving to Northampton, and then I came to Northampton. First thought was, what a mistake, because I didn't have anyone here. As soon as I got out of the bus, it was like, oh, I felt so lonely. But then I didn't give up. You know, I got this room, I stayed there, and my friend was also there with me. And then the following week, we were looking for a good church. We didn't want to end up anywhere else, but in a nice church. And um, was searching on the internet, and the first option was the Jesus Fellowship. So I thought, okay, well, I don't know what type of church it was, but then we thought, I cannot miss a Sunday service. Let's go there, and then maybe later on we can, see what happens. And then had this map on my phone, and then we walked, and I've seen the big red cross and everything. I always thought maybe it was a help center or something, Christian help center, but never occurred to me that it was a church. So I was like surprised, hey, this is a church. So I walked in, and the welcomers there, they welcomed me, and they asked, what, which church would you like to go? And I was like, oh my goodness, they have more than one church in here. And I said, anywhere. I just wanted to attend a Sunday service. And then they took me and my friend into the auditorium. I can still feel it, the atmosphere, and the song. It was one of my favorite. You know, is it worthy is the Lamb who was slain? Holy, holy is he? It was amazing. The moment I stepped in, my heart was like, that's it. I'm not going anywhere else.
And when they ask you about which church to be with, it's basically referring to that
because
many different local households meet in the Jesus Center together.
It wasn't that, but because they went to other churches as well. There was a Glen Suite there, so there was another church going on.
Okay. Well, then I see. Yeah.
So that is what it is. But as soon as I walked in, I still know how strongly I felt that this is it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, and then you joined the community?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another story. Like, well, I lived with my friend near the Jesus Center, which is like 10 to 15 minutes away from it. And what happened was, went through a lot of stuff in terms of with me, with my friend, and finally I couldn't take it anymore. So I thought, okay, no. I rang the sisters. Do you want me to tell what happened, or?
Yeah, how you joined the community?
Well, it was okay. I had this friend who I wanted to help, and I was every day when I got back from work. She always makes everything a big issue if I don't say hi or something like that. And then what happened was one night I knew my friend was at work. We've been having all this fight and everything going on, and the sisters at the community house where we used to go, they also knew about it. So they always advise us and they helped us really. And what happened was some of my friends thought maybe they liked me more than her. That is when everything started, but that wasn't the case. They treated us equally. Well, one night what happened was my friend was at work, and so it was past midnight, and I was I was sleeping. I had my phone next to me. I was sleeping, and then there is this mirror in front of me. And when I opened my eyes, I can see this dark figure just sat behind me on the bed where my friend used to sleep, looking at me. And all I can see is I can look at it in the mirror, and then I didn't feel anything within. I just felt like that's it. Something is sitting and watching me. But I know that it's definitely not my friend because she's at work. The door is locked. There's no way anyone can get in. And what happened was, well, my first thought was I need to ring my mum or the sister who was in touch with us, who was in contact with us from the community house. But I never did anything. Neither did I have to start off, oh, I need to pray. No, I didn't do that either. Within the next few seconds, what happened was this dark figure started jumping from one corner to the other, all four corners, and the sound that it made was like laughing. But do you know how the monkeys make these noises?
Chattering.
I think you have more experience of monkeys than me,
Yeah.
but I
But it
have an idea.
was a bit scary.
Well, yeah, it sounds scary.
It
Sounds
it
like
was
something from a horror film.
It was very
Something
scary.
staring at you and jumps around and
Yeah, and
do monkey sounds.
this laughter, but
Yeah.
it was laughing at me.
Yeah.
All I did was lie down on my bed and watching this thing jumping all four corners from one corner to the other. Our cot was this high, so you can easily get under it, under the cot. What I did was I got under the cot because I didn't know what else to do. This thing jumped in front of me, sat on the floor, banging the floor, laughing at me again. I didn't know what to do. By then, I was like, "That's it. I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna die." That's what I thought because I've never experienced anything like that before. And when it was laughing at me, banging the floor, all I saw was there was this little light, and I saw my friend's face, and that's it. But I definitely know that my friend was not there. She was at work then, and this thing tried to lift the cot up. That is when I ran out, opened the door, and then our door didn't have a proper latch or anything, so I was holding on. And I had this friend called Jason, a housemate. He was there. He came down. All I did was we were holding on to this door, and you can hear all this banging noise and everything. And within the next few minutes or seconds, everything went quiet. Didn't know what to do, to open the door or not to open the door. But then finally we opened it. But all I can see is this figure in the corner where there was a single sofa, and it was in the corner. It was sat like that, and that's it. That is it. I moved out of the house.
So what do you think this figure was?
I don't know what the figure was, but if not for that, I wouldn't have moved into community. Definitely I wouldn't, because I didn't have the thought of moving into community, but I really liked the way people lived, what they were doing. It was so different from what I experienced back, even in India, my family.
Really?
Yeah, because that is family
Yeah.
blood, but this is different people living
Yes.
under the same roof, spending time together. People never get along, but this is beautiful. This is like, oh wow, amazing. So, yeah, that was the reason.
Yeah.
But then, now I feel it must be definitely God, because if that hadn't happened, there's no way I would have, that is how I moved into community. But I did a training year from 2011 to 12.
Oh, it's that recent. I thought you had been in community longer than
No,
that.
no. And yeah,
Amazing.
I did a training year in community, yes.
So, Mark, you joined community as well. Was that also because of a demon monkey jumping around in your room?
No, fortunately, I didn't actually experience the demon monkey. But I did experience quite a lot of brokenness. What kind of was a bit of a bridge in terms of me being in a position of community, my own need of family, my own need of healing, restoration, because of my past life was just a mess. I mean, a lot of things had happened in terms of me being threatened by big time drug dealers with knives and stuff, threatening to kill me and stuff. So I've had all kinds of different things building up, what actually left a scar within me.
Yeah, sure.
So when I'd found God, when I'd met Steve, as I spoke about earlier, that was where I stayed within the community house, and I was there for 2.5 years with Steve.
So you joined community pretty much immediately?
Yeah, straight away, yeah.
Yeah, and I reckon that must have been quite a big change from life as you previously had experienced it.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely something that I was blown away by, the fact that we were living together as a family, the fact that we were able to be transparent and speak about our problems and speak about the deep things what go on in one another's lives in terms of um, pain and yeah, trials and everything that we go through. We're able to just sit around and talk about. So there was a a deep kind of connection with living in the community setting where I was actually. And yeah, just the whole principle of sharing everything and just being being part of something that is yeah, I guess to me as well, the community house that I was living in was actually church in a sense. So it was I didn't actually just see like church as something that you have to go and visit within. You have to go and visit in a particular building and worship God. I actually found the community house I was living at was actually church within itself. And then obviously as I started to become more connected in terms of finding my feet in Christianity, I had the revelation that church is a people, and it isn't a building.
Yeah, exactly. So, as years went on, you met, you started relating, you got married in India, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, you went to India. Why didn't you marry here?
Well, my visa was running out, so I was going to go back to India, but then Mark thought that he had to go accompany me.
Yeah.
And he came to India. Then he met my parents. They were happy about it.
Yes, I understand that.
And then, yeah.
And so you lived there for 3 years together, was it?
It's
2.5 years.
2.5. And then, Mark, you returned here to Holy Treasure, the community house which we're right now. And then you had to work for the government to allow your wife to join you.
Yeah.
And now you're both here. So being both of you both experienced disciples of Jesus and also experienced community practitioners. There was a fail. Practitioners. Yeah. As we sort of round off this episode, what would you say to people interested in community and perhaps people who, are wondering if it's worth it or if it's, too challenging and so on. Sangeeta.
Well, I would definitely recommend it. It is worth it. You know, you will have, ups and downs, like you will have difficulties because, yeah, that is how people are, but it is beautiful, it is family, and it's definitely worth going through all those things. And yeah, as I always say, people who wanted to, join a community to not have any second thoughts at all. It's worth it. It is worth. Yeah.
Amen. And Mark?
Don't do it!
What?
No, I'm joking.
All right. And we got to cut off here now.
No, definitely, I would definitely recommend community living to anybody who hasn't experienced that lifestyle. I believe that God is in community. I believe that if you want to cultivate, if you want to build a relationship with God, community is a good place to be. It's a place where your character can be shaped and formed. It's a place where relationships can be developed and matured. It's a place where family can be expressed, and obviously simplicity, sharing of goods and possessions, and as you mentioned about common purse, sharing of money and things, because this is something that the world doesn't have.
Yeah.
The world that we live in is just so we live in a consumer society where it's and we're in a bit of a rat race within this world. It's people want to climb on top of each other to get to this particular position in life, or they want the best jobs, they want the best cars and everything, and but community is more and more deeper, more effective, and I think it's something that would inspire somebody who is in search of a different lifestyle, really, in terms of Christianity. I'm not ruling out the fact that living with your family in a house, that's fair enough. You could actually still build community into that, but people, not everybody is, how can I say, community is for everybody, but not everybody grasps the vision of it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'm not going to say not everybody is made for community, because I believe that when we pass on to be with the Lord, we will be in community.
Yeah.
In heaven.
Exactly, yeah.
Because it says about, in my Father's house there are many, many rooms.
Yeah.
So definitely community is something worth exploring, and it's not easy at times. I've found it extremely difficult at times, and there has been times when I've left community to be on my own and have my own place, and it hasn't worked out. And I really value the sense of family, the sense of being together and working things through in Jesus.
Amen. Thank you so much, Sangi and Mark.
Thank you very much.
It's been so great to have you in this episode, and I hope it spreads globally so more and more people are inspired by your story and your lifestyle.
Thank you.
All right, God bless you.
God bless you.
And God bless everyone who has watched/listened to this. Thank you for watching/listening, and I hope that you join us next week when we talk about something else. Bye bye.